What's going on, everybody? This is Jared with Self Mastery for Men, and welcome to day 2 of 3 of this 3-part series on how you can show up as a man, take ownership of your life, and that way you can enjoy the freedom, the lifestyle, the version of yourself on the inside that you want to get on the outside, and really master your life. So if you're here with me live, comment live. Love to be able to shout you out and say hi to you. If you're here with me on the replay, once again, comment replay down below. Love to be able to reach out as well. And then also, if you're on one of our other meetings, maybe you're watching it on a different platform, I'm going to post the link below so that way you can join in on the free community here and join in on the conversation. We'd love to have you here. So with that being said, we have a fun day scheduled for today. And like yesterday, we have a lot of ground to cover again. So let's recap quickly what we did yesterday. So yesterday, we covered what most men really want. They want freedom. They want a great relationship. They want control over their health and their finances and their body. But we get trapped with band-aid solutions or being told one thing or being told strategies that don't actually work. We're told, it's all or nothing. We're told you got to be an alpha or you're a nice guy. We're told you have to do restrictive, crash dieting, or you're lazy or whatever. But what I want to focus on right here, and today especially, is the number one force that I found that can change every aspect of your life almost automatically. And it's the one that we focus least on, at least in my opinion. Because what we typically try to do is we try to focus on strategies first, where we want to get in better shape. We start doing a crazy diet plan, get super motivated right away. We want to fix the relationship. We start reading books or going to counseling or changing the relationship even. We do all these crazy things. But the one thing that I want to point out to you is you don't get what you say that you want, right? You don't get what you say that you want. You get what you believe that you deserve. So you don't get what you want, you get what you believe that you deserve. And so what is it that controls what you believe that you deserve? Well, it's the lowest acceptable standard that you set for yourself. And that's controlled by what? That's controlled by your self-perception, your self-identity. So that's what we're going to get into today. So comment below, what's the number one thing you're looking most forward to learning from today or discovering today? Comment below. I'll read all the comments at some point. And what if you watched yesterday? If not, go back and watch it so that way you get caught up. But what was your biggest takeaway from yesterday? So comment below. What are you looking most forward to learning here today? And what was your number one takeaway from yesterday? And we're going to dive in right now. So this is going to be a fun day. We're going to tell some stories. We're going to relate this back to reality and give you some practical ideas on how to make this happen. But what controls the quality of our life, right? What controls how we identify ourselves? Well, we are our conditioning, period. Okay? We are our conditioning. Period. That's it. So there was a book that I read, was years ago. It was like in high school. But what it says is you are a part of all that you've met, right? You're a part of all that you've met, which means everything that you've been a part of, everything that you've seen, everything you've been involved with has left a mark on you in some way, hasn't it? But put it this way. When we're born, we're born, right? Obviously. And then we go to school. And we're born in a certain geographical area, and then we're born in like a certain community. Then we go to school, and we're a product of the school system, the environment, the socialization there. Then you're surrounded by your friend group, and that's gonna change depending on where you grew up. And then you're gonna kind of believe what your parents believe what the school teacher said, and you just kind of become this product of your environment. And so people grow up their whole lives and they just never know that there's another way. I heard this recently. Somebody said, I've been living my life this whole way or this way for such a long time. It's like I'm in a box and I know there's a way out of the box, but I don't even know what that is. I can't see beyond that, right? And this is what happens. So we go our whole lives where we're born, we go to school, we graduate, we get married, we get a job, we pay the bills, and then we wake up at some point, sometimes earlier than others, sometimes it's much later in life, but we go, wait a minute, that age-old question, how did I end up here? Right? It's kind of like when you're in a lucid dream. Have you ever been in a dream before where you're asleep and everything seems normal, and then one moment you're like, wait a minute, like you kind of become aware that you're dreaming, right? And you go, oh my God, there's an elephant there and he's on a skateboard. That's weird. And it's not until you're aware that you're dreaming that you realize some stuff is weird. This happens to people. This happens to men. It's called midlife crisis sometimes, right? But it's not really that. It can happen at 19. It can happen at 50. It can happen at any age. But there's this moment of awakening where you go, wait a minute. Isn't there more to life than this? So we are our conditioning, and many times we don't even question that. And what really got me to think about this, and one aside really quick, I never know what stories are going to resonate with people. You just never know. So if you're out there talking to people, you don't know if your story is going to matter or if nobody's even going to listen to you. You have no idea what's going to resonate with people, because I didn't want to share the story at one point, but I did. And someone was like, oh my God, that really helped me because I went through the same thing. You just never know who's listening, right? So I always share my stories now because it could help anybody. So one thing that you may not know about me is I was adopted, right? At 6 months old. I was born in Beirut, Lebanon, right? So this is 1986. So there was a civil war going on in Beirut. And so what happened was my birth parents, to get me out of the civil war, put me up immediately for adoption. And so what happened was, born in Beirut, at birth, taken from my parents, held by like a temporary family. It wasn't going to be my adopted family, never was supposed to be. But I was held temporarily in Cyprus, Greece for a couple months until all the visas and all the paperwork got through. And my adopted parents, who I'm with to this day in the United States, were able to, the foster family in Cyprus was able to come over to the United States, make the transition, and gift me over. But that really made me think, because I was getting older, and I was really starting to think. I go, wait a minute. I go, I'm in the U.S. I grew up with my parents, and they socialized me a certain way. But I go, what would have happened if I stayed in Beirut? Right? I go, what would have happened if I stayed in Cyprus? Right? Like, what would have happened if I never was adopted by this family? So what that did is, very early on, and especially in the past 5 years, I started thinking, I go, wait a minute. What version of me would have actually been the real me? Is there even a real version of me? How do you decide? Would the version of me in Beirut that's living in the Middle East, would that be any different than who I am now? Would I have changed in some way if I was in a different circumstance? You don't know, but obviously you would, because the religion would be different, the socioeconomic scale would be different, the territory with the war would be different, entirely different life. You would be socialized and conditioned differently. Does that make sense? But so few of us actually stop to think, do I have a choice in the matter? Do I have a choice in how I show up every day? Does that make sense? So there's a really great book out there. It's called The Alter Ego Effect. Trying to think of the guy's name. It's a yellow book. It's a great one. I recommend it if you can pick it up. But it's called The Alter Ego Effect. And what it talks about is this whole concept of who you are on the inside versus who you really are. And so, for example, Superman and Clark Kent. There's Superman got the cape. Clark Kent has the glasses and the suit and everything like that. And the whole thing is like, well, Superman, when he puts on the uniform, becomes this guy. Does that make sense? So I was talking to this guy. He was a client of mine, and he was the captain of an airline. He was the bigwig, and so he was the #1 captain of this airline, and he was the captain of all captains, where everybody answered to him. So he taught the pilots, he trained them, he kept all the logs, like he had the curriculum, but he also would manage them and all that, and he had to have a lot of respect with these people. And in his career, he was the man. Like, people respected him. He was on his A game. He was on the ball, right? And when he's flying a plane and he's responsible for hundreds of lives, where do you think his focus is? He's focused. He's ready. He's on the tips of his feet. Like, he's ready to go. He can handle anything when he's this captain. When he's the captain of the airlines. And then so he comes to me and he goes, Jared, I got some problems. I go, what's the problem? He goes, I'm the man at my job. I want the guys to respect me more, obviously, but for the most part, I'm the man. But he goes, the second I go through the front door at my house when I'm done with my tour or with whatever it is that he does, Goes to the front door of his house. What happens? His wife is nagging him. His kids are uncontrollable. His wife's not happy. And he goes from this to this. You see what I mean? He goes from being the man to being this. And he goes, I just don't know how to reignite the passion in my relationship. He goes, I don't know how to get the respect of my kids. He goes, when I'm there, I'm on top of the world, but when I go over here, I'm completely powerless. And it doesn't make sense. I really need help with this. And so I asked him, I go, who are you when you're the pilot? He goes, I'm focused. I'm in charge. I'm the man. I know that I'm in control, and everybody, I make sure everybody is safe and taken care of, right? Like, it's my way. Like, he's not being a jerk. He's not being controlling, but he's being dominant, right? Because he has to be. When you're in the airlines and it's like life or death situation and you're up in the air, you got to be focused. You got to make decisions. You got to have control of the situation, especially if a problem's going down, right? He's like the eye of the storm. And so I go, where's the captain when you go home? And he goes, oh, and like he got chills. He goes, it makes sense. And it started to reshape the way that he thought about identity. Does that make sense? So I shared with him a story. And I'll share with you the story here as well. I think it really illustrates this point. Remember I told you yesterday I used to work with pro wrestlers. So there's some guys, on national television right now, some of the highest levels were the pay-per-view, and you would know their names if I told them to you. But they're there, and I used to coach them. And I coached them when they were on the local level because they wanted to get there. But it was never a matter of skill. It was never a matter of their look. It was never a matter of their capability. It was never a matter of were they good wrestlers or not. It was a matter of how do they show up and how do they focus themselves and how do they get there, right? So I was able to coach all these pro wrestlers to get to that level. There's multiple that I work with. But the reason I was able to is because in my past life, in my previous life, I was a pro wrestler. So I was jumping off the top rope. I was hitting people with chairs. It was my dream since I was 5. I actually never thought I'd be here talking to you. I thought I'd be on TV or something like that. Being like The Rock in my underpants or something like that. Does that make sense? But that was my dream as a 5-year-old kid. But things change. But there was a period of my life, I was in college. I was doing really good. I was in the best shape of my life. And I was on the radar for WWE. And what that means when you're on the radar is they bring you in for tryout matches, test matches. Before the show, they put you on and stuff like that. Well, I grew up in New England. And their farm system, their feeder system is in Tampa, Florida, which brought me to Florida. Right after college, I go, if I stay where I'm at, I'm going to end up getting a job. I'm going to end up being with my same buddies that go drinking every night. I got to get out. I got to move to Florida. So right out of college, moved to Florida, go pursue this wrestling dream. So I'm in Florida, and I'm going to start to have some tryout matches here. And so when they give you tryout matches, what they do is they put you with top name level guys to test you out, to see how you're doing. So I'm in Florida. Oh, and by the way, I was long-term, I was dating a woman at the time, also in college, but she was 1 year behind me. So I moved to Florida. I said, you know what? Once you graduate, come to Florida with me. We've got a place. It's going to be great. I was gone for a week, right? I moved to Florida. My tryout comes up. I'm flying to New York and then New Hampshire, right? They're doing a Northeast loop. So I go, great, move to Florida. I'm just going to come back, do the loop. I'll do New York, I'll do New Hampshire, and then I'll meet you there, and then we'll spend the week together, and I'll come back. I was gone for a week. I was supposed to wrestle former WWE champion, 5-time heavyweight champion, Hall of Fame level guy Booker T. Okay, if you're not interested in wrestling, don't worry about the names, but here's the concept that I'm going to teach you. So I'm flying. They go, do you think you can handle wrestling? This guy's a top level guy. See if you can hang with him. Because I'm on the radar, I go, sure, no problem. So I fly into New York, and I do this match. It's like Saturday, and then I'm going to do Monday Night Raw on the Monday, right? So I fly into New York to do this match, and I land, I get in the rental car, I start driving to the arena because it's the same day, and I call my girlfriend at the time, and I said, okay, hey, great, I landed here. I'm going to do the show tonight, and then after I do the show, I'm going to meet up with you. She goes, I cheated on you. I go, what? She goes, I cheated on you. We had a party on the boat, like a college party. And I'm like, my boyfriend moved to Florida. Screw him. And I go, I was gone for a week. We had plans. I'm following my dream. I'm going to be a wrestler. I'm going to be on WWE on Monday. What do you mean you cheated on me? She goes, you moved to Florida. I cheated on you. She hung up. I am beside myself, if you can imagine, right? So now I just landed. I'm on top of the world at first, thinking I'm going to have this wrestling match. This great time. Then I'm going to go hang out with my girlfriend later. I'm driving to the show. I'm depressed. I'm miserable. I'm inconsolable. I'm like, how could she do this to me? Right? Does that make sense? And so I get to the arena and my friends are like, Jared, you are not doing too good. And I'm walking around like what? I'm walking around like this. I'm walking around like, hey, what's up? And I'm like sitting in the corner. My friends are trying like, dude, Booker T's showing up, like this big heavyweight champion guy. And he comes in and he sees me on the ground. And he's like, what's up, sucker? We're going to have a great match later. I'm like, yeah, man, we're going to do it. And then he walks away and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But a funny thing happened, right? So in wrestling, you're supposed to put on what? You put on a character. So I was Jared backstage in the thing. But when I was supposed to wrestle, I was supposed to be the superstar. This guy with the it factor, right? So I can't go out through the curtain all depressed and crying because my girlfriend broke up with me. So wrestlers do this little ritual. And so I'm behind the curtain and my music starts playing and I start kind of bouncing up and down like this. I start slapping my chest like that. I'm like, yeah, let's go, right, like that. And I'm pouring the water on my head and I burst through the curtain because they got the curtain there. And I'm the most confident man in the world for 20 minutes. And then the match happens. Then the match was over. It went great. Booker T loved it, gave me a great review to all of the agents and everything like that. But as I walk through the curtain, right? As I walk through the curtain from where the ring is to where the backstage is, I'm like this, and then I go like this. And it's like a shower, right? Like I'm going through a waterfall. And my entire demeanor, my entire identity changed. But for some reason, I was aware of it and I caught it. And I go, oh my God, what identity is real? What identity is real? Is it the depressed guy or the confident guy? And I go, oh my God, your identity is who you decide yourself to be. Your identity is a decision that you get to choose moment to moment. And so I started to ask myself, I go, well, am I this confident guy or am I this depressed guy? Am I the guy that has the it factor? Am I the guy that can control his life and be the man? Or am I this sad guy that's afraid of what's going to happen? And I go, what's real? It's like that old proverb when they say, well, there's two lions or there's two wolves, right? One is going to eat you and one is, telling you whatever, that you're up the man. Which one is real? The one that you feed. So that really got me questioning what's real. Is it the one that's in front of the ring or is it the one that's backstage? And so I made a decision from that day to start conditioning consciously the identity that I wanted to have. Does that make sense? So I had a great match with Booker T, went back to the curtain, had this awareness, and I go, oh my God, I got to start doing what I did out there more often, because what's real? They say the best wrestling characters are the ones where you take aspects of yourself and become that and make it bigger. Well, this confident, athletic guy is really a part of me because I was able to access it. It's just I didn't think to use it in every situation. To me, in the past, it was only situational. Only when it was appropriate could I be confident or could I be the man. Does that make sense? You're a different way with your parents. You're a different way with your friends. You're a different way with everybody. You get to decide how you show up. So fake it till you make it, right? Is that true? Well, who decides when you're not faking it anymore? Does that make sense? So I shared that story to the pilot. The pilot goes, oh my God, I got it. He brought the captain home. And he had the direction and the feedback and the love, and he set the plans, and he didn't let his kids walk all over him anymore, and his relationship transformed because he made a shift in the identity. Does that make sense? So the same thing that I asked with the whole adoption thing, I go, I would have been completely different if I lived in Beirut. I would have had a different language even. And there's even studies, if you study psychology, where people that are fluent in different languages, people that are fluent in English, but also fluent in Italian or fluent in French, when they change the language that they use and they start to think in a different language, it changes the way that they view colors. It changes the way that food tastes. There's actually studies on this. So with this whole adoption thing, well, am I the guy from Beirut? Am I the guy from Cyprus? Am I the guy from Massachusetts? Who am I? Well, I go, well, if I would be entirely different no matter where I go, well, do I want to be a product of my conditioning or do I want to decide? Because you get all these beliefs from your parents. Money's hard. Relationships have to be this way. I can never lose weight. I'm big boned. It's my genetics. It's I'll never have a business because my family never had it. I'm the only entrepreneur in my family. There's all of this conditioning. So do you want to hold on to that or do you want to consciously decide? So ask yourself, what's actually mine? What's mine and what's useful for who I want to become? And when you can change that identity, the rest of the stuff will happen automatically, right? Because you have a rocket fuel, you have a rocket tied to your back and an anchor. So in order for you to get the progress that you really want, we got to do what? Yeah, we got to chop the anchor, and that's all of the beliefs, decisions, stories that you're telling yourself as to why that you can't really be this guy. So we're going to cover how to do that more in depth tomorrow, but fantastic seeing you guys here today. Like I said, give me a thumbs up or a like or a heart or something. Share with me your biggest takeaway. I'd love to see the feedback and what you guys are learning from this. And that's it for today, guys. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow.